Salutations, people! Welcome to Page 3 Killers, Murders That Went Unnoticed, a podcast where we dive into the murder cases that went unnoticed by our nation's newspapers.
Hi, Shay.
Hi, John.
Hi, people.
Hi, guys. Welcome back.
Welcome back to episode 25.2.
Yes.
Of Page 3 Killer.
So this is part 2 of episode 25. I'm not sure if that makes it episode 26 or not, but we're going to say 25.2. Yeah. And in case you guys forgot, oh my goodness. Yeah, so a shout out to Stacy for Gail and Chrissy Bryson for sending us, or actually while we were on our trip, getting John a Cookie Monster puppet. It's just kind of creepy. Yeah, so we now have a Cookie Monster puppet. We did say in, what was it, episode 23? That the Harrison Graham episode, that if somebody sent us a puppet, John would play with it for the episode. Yeah. You gonna...
He's waving.
Yeah. So, hey, Cookie Monster, do you wanna discuss this episode with everybody?
Oh God, I can't do it. I can't do it. How do I do the Cookie Monster voice? I can't even begin.
Cookies.
C is for cookie.
Yes, that is definitely it. That's the voice, yeah. So, back to...
Oh, nom, nom, nom.
Oh, goodness. That was just Cookie Monster raping my ear. Oh, my God. Oh, I'm going to hell.
Pardon me.
Now, this is part 2 of the Colonial Parkway Killer episode. Now, we left off... Oh my God. Hi, Cookie Monster. In case, for everybody who's not watching the video, John is being really silly with his Cookie Monster puppet. Making it stare at me. Ow. That actually hit me in the head. That was John. He threw the Cookie Monster puppet over his shoulder, accidentally whacked me. Yes. Now, we left off after our third set of murders that were linked to the Kathleen Thomas and Rebecca Dowski cases from 1986. Now, our fourth set of murders
Hold on. Let's just do a recap.
Yes. Okay.
Just go back.
Yeah. So we had the murder of Kathleen and Rebecca, which was the first in this series that happened in not May. It was in October of 1986.
Yeah.
And
so they were found with their inside the car.
Yes.
Off of the Colonial Parkway.
Yes.
Into the river.
Correct. Yeah, and that's the one that the suspect tried to light on fire and failed terribly. He also tried to push into the river and failed terribly. So...
Well, hey, gotta give him a break. It was his first one.
Yeah, we'll give him a little slack on that. Now, he seemed to have figured out a little bit about what he was doing for our second case, which was David Nobling and Robin Edwards, who went missing and were murdered in 1987 after they went to the arcade, right?
Well, they snuck back out. She snuck back out.
Yeah. Now, he was 20 years old. She was 14. Hey, different times, I guess.
We're not here to discuss that.
Yes, and that was on the they disappeared on the evening of September 19th, 1987.
This isn't page 3 statutory rapists.
Yes, this is.
It's page 3 killers. That's what we care about.
Yep. Now, and they were found on September. I think it was, his vehicle was found on the 21st. Yeah, his vehicle was found on the 21st of September, and shortly after that, I believe they were found on the 23rd of 1987. Both of those cases went cold. Then we had our third set of murders that we talked about, which was Cassandra, aka Sandy Haley, and Richard Keith Call. And they were they went missing on April 9th, 1988. And they were never found. But his vehicle was the one that was left, and it was left in some weird circumstances where the door was out. Well,
his dad found it, and then the cops found it, but then it turns out the cops probably found it before the dad found it.
Yeah, but there was some strange items inside the car. So the all of their clothes were folded up in neat piles. His son's shoes were found underneath of the pedals in the front of the vehicle, and Cassandra's wallet, jewelry, and money were missing. So some trophies were taken, so our first set of victims, they were found with everything that they owned except, I believe the wallet was out, or
yeah,
Kathy's wallet was out, but it was left
intact.
Nothing was missing. But the second set, her wallet was missing, and Robin's wallet was missing. The second was Robin. Her wallet was missing, and then we have Cassandra, whose wallet, money, and jewelry is missing. So this guy is starting to take trophies. And he's starting to get better because they did not find the third set of victims. They still haven't found their remains.
The first ones were in the car. The next ones were...
They found them in the water.
And the third one's unfound.
Yeah, so he's definitely getting better at his craft, which just happens to be something sick and twisted. Yep. Now, our fourth set of murders would be a Daniel, oh my goodness, babe. Lauer. Okay, so Daniel Lauer and Anne Marie Phelps. Now, Daniel Lauer was 21 years old and lived in Virginia's Amelia County. And Anne Maria Phelps was 18 years old. And she is not Daniel's girlfriend or his or a significant other or anything. She is actually his brother's fiance or wife. I believe she was his fiance. Now, Daniel had gone out to visit his brother and Anne Marie in Virginia Beach over the Labor Day weekend of 1989. Now, his brother was Clinton, and Anna, as she went by. They had invited him to come down and live with them while he was there on the trip. And he decided that it would be an excellent idea for him to, get on back on his feet and, spend some time with his brother and his soon-to-be sister-in-law. Now, the following Monday, September 4th, 1989, Daniel made the 2+ hour drive back to his parents' home, and he was joined by his friends who came with him and his brother's girlfriend / fiance. Now, Anna always sees the opportunity to go back to Amelia to visit her family that lived there as well. So she was excited to go back with Daniel. She was going to see her family while he packed up some of his belongings to bring back to her and Clinton's place. So her and Daniel had, they were going to be heading back to Virginia Beach that evening. So Daniel and Anna were last seen around 11:15 p.m. leaving the Lowry family home in Daniel's gold 1972 Chevy Nova. What about that car, babe?
Depends on the engine.
Okay, well, I don't know anything about the engine. So as hours began to pass, Clinton became very... he got a little worried because it became clear that something had happened to the two, because it did not take that long to drive from Amelia to Virginia Beach. So it was a 2-hour trip. So past that 2 hours, he began to worry. Now, early that morning, Clinton and a friend of his and a coworker decided to drive along I-64, hoping that the pair had just simply broken down on the road and that he would see them and they would be able to help them out.
I guess this is a time for cellular telephones.
Yeah, so there's no cell phones. Now, they had no idea how close they had come to discovering Daniel's vehicle. Now, what is really sad is that Clinton and his coworker slash friend had they were running low on gas, so they had to turn around for fear that they would too break down on the side of the road, and that they would be kind of SOL. So they did turn around, but they were so close to finding a Daniel's vehicle, which is a shame. And it was parked along the interstate just a few miles away from where they had been searching at the time. Now, the following day, on September 5th, Daniel's Chevy Nova was found abandoned by a state trooper, a state transportation official at the I-65 New Kent rest stop. It was facing the opposite direction of where Daniel and Anna had been traveling from. So it was found, I believe, on the westbound side instead of the eastbound, because they should have been heading eastbound to the ocean to Virginia Beach, and it was found on the westbound side rest stop. Now, Daniel's Chevy Nova had been parked near an area designed for large trucks, having been left along the side of the ramp near a no parking sign. Now, a Virginia state trooper that came out to inspect the vehicle was about to have it towed, but then stopped when he heard a missing persons report come over the radio, and that had the vehicle matching license plate. I want to say, I was going to say subscription, and I was like, no, that's the wrong word. Description is the correct word. So it matched the description of the vehicle there. So he automatically stopped and decided to, be a little bit more careful and search the vehicle. So now, upon inspecting the vehicle more closely, the trooper found that both the passenger and driver's side's door were unlocked, and the keys to the vehicle had been left in the ignition. Now, almost all of the items in Daniel Lauer's car that he retrieved from his family's home that evening was still in the vehicle. So all of his things were still there. Nothing was missing. Now, the vehicle appeared to have been driven in the woods due to a large accumulation of dirt and grass stains, as well as weeds that had collected underneath the car in the undercarriage. So They found like brush and stuff, so not indigenous to that area. Now, because of the location uh, of the vehicle, and subsequent search by the, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Now, the vehicle had been searched by the investigation team, uh, and it was handed off to the Virginia State Police. Sorry.
So not the FBI this time.
Not the FBI this time. So now we have one case that's being handled by the local police department. We have 2 cases being handled by the FBI and 1 by the state troopers.
I'm sure they are all willing and forthright with all of their information and sharing everything with everybody.
Hopefully, yes.
No pissing matches going on over here in Virginia.
Yeah. So sightings of the pair would be reported throughout the area, including one sighting in particular reported by a truck driver who had seen them on the eastbound rest area the night before they were missing. But oddly enough, their vehicle was found on the westbound side, so that's a little strange. Now, there was no explanation of how the vehicle ended up on the westbound side hours later when it was spotted by another person going the opposite direction. And another witness claimed to have seen them on the westbound rest stop during the daytime hours of September 5th, the day that they were reported missing. Now, on October 19th, 1989, roughly 6 weeks after Anne Marie Phelps and Daniel Lauer had gone missing, their bodies were discovered on a logging road near I-65 and Route 1. Can you stop playing with things, babe?
Please ignore it. Ignore the man behind the curtain.
Yes, ignore the man behind the curtain. All right, so
their bodies were discovered on a logging road near I-65 and Route 155 between Williamsburg and Richmond.
Yes. Now, this was about 30 miles from the I-64 ramp to the Colonial Parkway, about 2 miles away from the rest stop where Daniel's vehicle had been abandoned. Now, at least one body had appeared to have knife wounds. Now, Anna's had a significant cut to her finger. So she had a bit of a defensive wound. Yeah. So the medical examiners could not rule out the possibility of gunshots. At this point, the bodies, I believe, are in a state of decomposition at the time that they are found. It's been September 6 weeks total. And we know how warm it can be in Virginia. In October, you don't need a coat until late at night. Really. We've been there in October. We were there in July. So if there's any indication of, possibly how hot it can get, I think we felt it. September isn't a cold month. It's usually pretty warm. Tail end of the summer, kind of thing. Now, the medical examiner could not rule out the gunshots because of the decomposition. So both sets of remains had to be identified using medical and dental records. And as a result, the identification was delayed until a forensic anthropologist from the Smithsonian Institute could take a look at those. And they were able to determine Anne Marie. They were able to identify her first because her records came in. They were much easier to find than Daniel's. But they were able to get those, and they did confirm that it was them that they had found. Now, the forensic anthropologist was taking a look at Anne Marie's remains and was able to determine that she had died from cuts or stab wounds to her abdomen. So I'm assuming that they found probably knife marks on her bones, like her spine, her rib cage, her pelvis, probably those areas that would indicate that she had been stabbed or cut. But that information has not been like fully released as it is a active investigation. Now they estimated the time of death for the two to being that the week of September 4th when they went missing. Now, there seems to be a pattern with all the female victims having their wallets and IDs stolen, and that is no exception here. Now, Anna was wearing Daniel's socks and shoes, and a couple of her personal documents had been found near her body, such as her Social Security card and her miniature birth certificate. And I think we talked about what the miniature birth certificate was before, and apparently that is like a little card that says you're a United States citizen, and you could use it to go in between here in Canada or here in Mexico. It was like prior, like
it's a little bitty baby birth certificate.
It's a little baby birth certificate. Which I kind of wish they did now. It would be kind of cool.
Well, now you need a passport.
Yeah.
Reasons.
Yeah. Now, Daniel had been given $700 by his father that the night that they left, and that money was not found on Daniel's body or in the vehicle. In 2010, a piece of evidence was found inside Anna's apartment in the form of a note. That note indicated that she was planning on meeting someone at the rest stop on the night of her and Daniel's disappearance. Now, this note had a time and a date written on there for the meeting, and it seemed to match up with certain details that the investigators already know about the case. It also revealed that the person that she was planning on meeting was driving a blue van. Yeah. So kind of creepy. So we have her ID missing. She was stabbed to death, and so was Daniel. We have they were I believe their bodies were covered by an electric blanket that had been taken out of Daniel's car. I think that was one of the items that you removed from this.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. So that was a really interesting. So it seems that, he's bringing his murder weapon of choice, which is either a knife or a gun. I'm assuming that he shot Daniel. I feel like it would make more sense to like shoot the male, and then that would give him time to do what he wanted with Anna, but who knows? Since it's still an active investigation, there's really no other evidence that we can talk about for this case. Yeah. Now let's get into our next set that is a possible link to this case. And that would be Margaret, right? Margaret?
Yeah, Marguerite.
And Donna Hall. Now, this one actually predates the murder of Kathleen Thomas and Rebecca Dowski by 2 years. So this case happened in August of 1984. So Mike and Donna were last seen at 11:45 p.m. on August 17th of 1984. They were camping for the weekend, but did not return from their camping trip on Sunday as they had planned. Now, on August 21st of 1984, uh, their Jeep that they had gone camping with was discovered near King's Cross Apartments off of Gaskin Road in Virginia. The vehicle was discovered half hidden in foliage, with both of its doors wide open and the keys in the ignition, like the other vehicles found in these murders. There was dry blood on the passenger seats, and the bodies of the murdered couple was 20 feet away from the vehicle. Now, Donna was missing her shoes when she was found, and found near the bodies were burnt out cigarette butts and an empty bottle of beer. The autopsy revealed that Mike and Donna had been drugged with Demerol, and their throats had been slit sometime between 1 and 2 a.m. on the 18th of August. Now, the blood of the third unknown individual found at the crime scene was revealed to be type A blood, but did not match either of the two victims. And that is all the information I have on that predating case. So the only similarity I see here is that they're the same.
A couple in a car.
It's a couple in a car, and their throats were slit like all the other victims.
That one seems more like the person didn't surprise them because they were drugged.
Yeah. So it seems like it was somebody they knew. Yeah. Which is why I find this one hard. Like, okay, so if you're a serial killer, are you really going to start with somebody you know or somebody you don't know?
I don't know. I'm not a serial killer.
I mean, I feel like starting with somebody that you know is a terrible idea. But at the same time, it offers you the ability to drug somebody in case you're nervous about doing this.
Could have just been an acquaintance.
Yeah.
Like, not a good friend, just someone they met.
Now, what I would like to know is if they had plans to meet up with anybody. Like, did they say that they were going to meet up with anybody on this trip, or that there was somebody else going?
A guy in a blue van, maybe.
Yeah, I wonder. But yeah, so that is all the information I have on that possible matching case. So our next one would be Brian Pettinger, and Lottie Powell. Yep. So the first of these two victims was Brian. Now, I have to note, guys, that they were not killed together. These were killed at two separate times. And then we will talk about after I start talking about this, we'll talk about the web sleuth theory of this case, of these two, okay? Now, Brian was a former soldier, and he lived in Newport News. And he was last seen on the evening of December 4th, 1987, at a dance club in Hampton. No,
it's Hampton.
Oh, Hampton? Okay. Where he was training to be a dance instructor. Now, some of his fellow dancers were throwing a party, and he stayed briefly, about a half an hour, for this little after party. But he did decide to leave. So they believe that he had that in the brief distance it took for him to reach his car, he encountered trouble. He was reported missing by his wife on that evening. And on December 6th, his truck was discovered in the parking lot of the New Market North Mall. On February 1st, we have the discovery of his body floating in the Chuckatuck River by a couple of fishermen. Yeah. So.
I like the name of that river.
Yeah. Chuckatuck?
Chuckatuck.
Chuckatuck. Now, at the time of his discovery, Brian was found only wearing a dress shirt and socks. So his ankles, wrists, and neck had been bound with rope before his death. And they believe that he actually drowned to death. A wound to the back of the head revealed that he endured some kind of blunt force trauma beforehand. Whether that was before he fell into the water or he was hitting or his head hit something when he went into the water, I'm not too sure. I'm sure the police have a much better idea of at what point that blunt force trauma actually happened. Now we're going to talk about the second victim in this set, which is Lottie Powell. Now, she was a young woman living in Gloucester. Did I get that one?
Yep.
Now, both Brian and Laura had worked for a guy named Ron Little, oddly enough. They both worked at the same place. Not at the same time.
They weren't killed together, but they knew the same people.
Yes. And Ron Little, he was, I believe, a PI.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was a PI. And she worked in the office. I'm not sure exactly what Brian did at this company, but they worked for this guy at 2 separate times. Now, she was last seen on the evening of March 8th of 1988 by her boyfriend. Now, Lottie and her boyfriend had an argument while they were driving home, and basically he pulled over, she got out, and said that she was going to walk home alone.
Terrible idea.
Yeah, which seems to be a terrible idea. So he continued driving, and about 45 minutes later, he did return for her. So what I think is like he went like half of that, and then he decided, nah, I'm going to turn around and go back and get her. Like, I'm not going to let her walk home. So he drove back and returned to where she was, like, the path that she would have taken, and he didn't see her. Now, on April 2nd of 1988, her body was found floating in the James River. Now, this also happened to be the same river that David and Robin had been found in the prior September. Now, she was found nude and had numerous stab wounds to her back. Now, the autopsy was unable to determine the approximate date and time of her death. Now, her boyfriend remained a likely suspect in her death. So, I'm not sure if he still is a suspect. I did not find any information on this case after this. Now, because of the overall lack of evidence, those cases remain unsolved. Now, our next set is, oh my goodness, I am going to butcher these last names. So we have Lottie Buenas and Julianne Williams. So I'm hoping I pronounced Lottie's last name correctly. Buenas. I'm hoping. Now, this one here happens actually in the Shenandoah National Forest. Now, Lottie and Julianne, they were a couple. So, obviously, they were lesbians. We do not frown upon that here. So, they were out camping together in the Shenandoah National Forest in May of 1996. Now, the couple was last seen alive by a camp ranger, so basically a forest ranger, on May 24th when they went in to renew their camping permits. So, despite the couple being expected back later that month, they did not return from that camping trip. And on June 1st, 1996, the bodies of both women were found near the Skyline Lodge. And they were naked with their wrists bound and their throats slit.
So this is a long time after anything else.
Yeah.
Was it 7, 8 years after everything?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, and that's only because their bodies had been found. Just think of like how many people went missing in between. Then like dozens of people go missing every day, whether it's because they want to be missing or nefarious means. So I mean, how would they know if this guy actually stopped killing or if these are just all of the victims? Like, you wouldn't know. The only way you'd know is if you found the bodies, right? Or the vehicles or whatever. Yeah. So they were found, like I said, naked with their wrists bound and throats slit, like many of the other victims. Tape used on them contained hairs from an unknown individual. Neither of the women appeared to have been sexually assaulted or robbed. Their murder was investigated as a hate crime based on their sexual orientation. Now, a suspect would emerge the following year in 1997 by the name of Daryl Rice after he was arrested for attempting to violently abduct a woman. He was arrested by police, and while he was like, he was arrested for police after he had changed his clothes and the license plate on the back of his truck. Now, in his truck, he had leg and hand restraints, so a little BDSM kind of shit going on. So yeah, he had some handcuffs and stuff in his vehicle. Now, Daryl Rice had a history of harassing and abusive behavior towards female coworkers and other female acquaintances of his. Now, the investigators would learn that he had become obsessed with violent pornography and harbored an obsessive hatred for women in general. Now, my guess is this guy sounds like, I don't know, like an incel. I don't know. He just hates women. I don't know. Now, investigators would also discover that Daryl Rice had been in the Shenandoah National Park the weekend of Lottie and Julianne's murder. But it turned out that he actually left the park on the 26th and returned a few days later and continued camping. So he was not there the entire time. So it actually did not line up with their deaths. Now, Rice was charged with their murders in 2002. Sorry, yeah. So he was charged with their murders in 2002, while serving out his sentence for the violent assault and abduction attempt from 1997. So in 2002, the FBI would publicly state that Daryl Rice was not a suspect in the Colonial Parkway murders. Because I believe he was not found guilty of Lottie and Julianne's murders. I believe you accidentally cut that section out.
Whatever.
Yeah. So, you actually cut out some important stuff.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
Nope.
Now, we're going to introduce you to the rest of our Colonial Parkway murderer suspects. Now, at this time that all of these cases are going on, the investigators are being swamped with suspects. Now, they have a couple of large cities near there. You have Washington's a few hours away. The
You have
closest
Newport
one you have
News, Richmond,
Richmond, Norfolk,
Norfolk, yeah.
and Virginia Beach. So you have some, and they draw a lot of tourists. So you have a lot of people coming and going from this area uh, all the time. Now, almost every single violent criminal that was active in the region during the mid 1980s to 1990 uh, in some way fit the psychological profile given by the FBI for the suspects. So here are some of the suspects that have been looked at by the investigation. Now we have this guy here. I felt he made a good suspect, and that would be Ralph Leon Jackson. Now Ralph Leon Jackson was a 57-year-old man, and he was arrested on April in April of 2010 for a similar crime. Now, Jackson was married with 2 children. He served in the army and was described as a quiet man that usually kept to himself. Jackson later confessed to committing the murders, but placed the blame for them on some male enhancement cream.
That's convenient.
Yeah. Now, in 2011, Jackson was sentenced to a life sentence plus 35 years, but he has not been linked to the Colonial Parkway murders. Now, due to his age and proximity to the crimes, he makes a good suspect. And considering that the crime that he did get sentenced to jail time for was similar, you can't not include him in the list of suspects. Now, the next one, I sort of feel, okay, so the next one, I feel like he makes a very good suspect. But at the same time, there's only one thing that would exclude him is, I feel like because he was law enforcement, wouldn't his fingerprints be on file?
That's what I was thinking.
So we have Virginia State Trooper John Walton Ball. And this guy here was Nutter Butters, okay? For lack of a better term. This guy was insane, all right? So we have, he was a former Virginia State Trooper, and he was shot and killed while attempting to rob a convenience store in King William County in August of 1990, which seemed to fit the profile of the Parkway Killer. He was a violent offender, and he had a history of law enforcement. Now, what led me to think that he made a really good suspect is because now all of the wallets for the whoever was driving was found out. Now, and that would be,
so he may have pulled him over.
yeah, like, you, even if you're,
that would be a good way to get him to stop.
Exactly. So you would pull over for a cop on the side of the road, and you would pull out your wallet, give them your ID, and I feel like that made it an opportune moment for this kind of killer to take advantage of these couples.
Yeah, but I just can't get past the fingerprint thing.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking that, as good of a suspect as Mr. Former State Trooper John Walter Ball, that he just doesn't, he fits the profile for the violence, but his fingerprints would have been on file because he was previously in law enforcement. Now, also, his death in August of 1990 would explain why the Parkway Killer's murder stopped in 1989. But then that wouldn't account for the other murder.
Well, just the one in the Shenandoah.
Yeah, the Shenandoah Park. So, I mean, He fits, but just not right. And I'm pretty sure his DNA and his fingerprints were on file, so I'm pretty sure it's safe to say that this guy is not our guy. Would you be willing to go that far?
Yeah, I would rule him out.
Yeah. Now, our next suspect is Jesse Ronald Walling. Now, Jesse is another potential suspect in the Parkway murders. Now, he was a middle-aged man that was arrested in 1989 for raping and killing a 23-year-old. Her name was Madeline Lashbrook in Newport News. Now, he had a prior history of sexual harassment against women and exposing himself in public places.
I never understood that. Like, why?
What?
The people who just kind of expose themselves to women.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't understand dick pics. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm an artist. So anybody who doesn't know, I am an artist, and I took a anatomy drawing. Yeah.
Well, no, like I understand that, but like I don't understand why you would.
Yeah, just like in
dude,
public, like just randomly whip out your pecker and just.
Yeah, just to show it off to some women. They're not impressed, guys.
Yeah, no. Cause in case you guys haven't realized, it's not the size that matters. It's what you do with it that does. And I mean, just waving it around outside, just not appealing to women. I don't know about other women, but I certainly don't appreciate a dick pic. I mean, I feel like it's kind of a stupid, shitty thing for a guy to do, is to send a unsolicited dick pic. And I have stopped talking to many a men for that offense. Thanks, babe.
No, you
for
got
never
it.
sending me one.
I am. My mic working?
Yeah.
No, I don't think my mic's working.
Oh no.
Oh my God! How long has it been since my mic wasn't working?
I don't know.
All right, so I don't know how long it's been.
All right. Well, we will find out when I take a look at it. So, yeah. So he had a habit of exposing himself in public to women. The only problem is that the Parkway murders have no sign of a sexual motive, except for the knife wounds, which I feel absolutely ridiculous that they could say that there was no sexual motive, because I feel like some of the victims were stabbed or slashed, and that, I believe, is like a psychological thing for like serial killers that can't get it up. It's the act of penetration without, physically penetrating, right? Yeah. So they say that there's no sexual motive. As you can tell, I've watched way too many true crime television shows and Criminal Minds.
And Criminal Minds, yeah, that's the one I was going after.
Now, Walling is not believed to be an active suspect at this time. So, I mean, he makes a good suspect in the sense that, he
was doing stuff around the same time and place.
Yeah. But other than that, he's not known to have killed anybody. Except
for the one person he killed.
Yeah, sorry. He did kill Madeline Lashbrook, but, there was, none of the other victims were raped. So, there's that. Now, this guy here, I have to ask, is he a suspect? I'm not convinced. Okay. So we have Ron Little. You remember Ron Little, right? Brian and that other sweet girl Laurie worked for him.
So we don't even know if they're part of the same. Like, they could have been killed by this guy, but
yeah,
they might not even be part of the whole.
Yeah. Well, let me go into this a little bit more. So Ron Little is a private investigator in Virginia that operated a private firm named Liberty Security, which coincidentally has links to Robin Edwards, our second set of murder victims. The
Oh,
female,
the 14-year-old.
yeah, her mom worked for Ron Little.
Oh, wow. So there's three people
Yes.
kind of tied in.
So three people tied to this guy, hey. Now, Little decided to insert himself in this case. Now, he sent letters to the media. They were a series of rambling letters that claimed that he was being harassed by the FBI over several unsolved murders. But at this, the FBI is like, nah, he wasn't even on our radar. Like, we interviewed him when Robin went missing, but he was dismissed. Like, we don't even think he's a possible killer in this at all. We don't feel that he's linked at all. So, but he's just keeps bringing himself to the forefront with the media. So super crazy. Now, the murders that he referenced included 6 of the victims from the crime spree and 2 others, which were Brian and Lottie, whose bodies were found in the James River in February of 1988. Now, unlike the ongoing cases for the Colonial Parkway, these 2 victims had a personal connection to him since they worked for him. Now, since they had both worked for the firm, he made a good suspect for their cases, but not necessarily any of the other ones. Now, Little was not an active suspect in any of these cases at all.
So he's just a little bit kooky.
Yeah. So he's just a little bit Nutter Butters. Now, he was, however, being investigated not by the FBI, but INS. Because of his, he falsified paperwork to buy firearms in the United States.
Oh, he must be foreign then.
Yes, he was from New Zealand. Yeah. So, he had some false information on his registration papers for his visa and to purchase firearms. So it turned out he actually had a little bit of a seedy past in New Zealand, which he concealed when he came from New Zealand to America and applied for citizenship. Yeah. Now, those convictions were for burglary, auto theft, and possession of illegal substances. So nothing murder related, nothing that was violent in nature. So these were, sure, they were acts against other people, but nobody was actually hurt, so they were victimless crimes, technically. Like I said, burglary, auto theft, possession of illegal substances. So.
Oh, I like this last line.
Now, despite his connections to several of the murder victims, Ron Little was deported back to New Zealand in August of 1989.
We're going to have to look into New Zealand murders in the early 90s.
I know. Because if he was the killer, this would match up with the time frame that the Colonial Parkway Killer stopped killing, which I think makes him a really good suspect, but at the same time, I'm like...
the FBI really isn't all like... Well, he could be a suspect. They obviously ruled this guy out.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if he was a good enough suspect, they would have had him arrested. He would never have been deported, and he would have sat in our prison, in a prison somewhere here for lesser charges, until they had enough information to put him in jail for murder. Right? I mean...
Well, I guess maybe it has to do with the New Zealand extradition stuff and INS. But I think the FBI would have inserted themselves.
Yeah. So, I mean, out of all of the victim, I mean, all of the suspects, I feel like he was a good one. But my belief is that none of these guys are our killer. What I think is that
He
we had.
moved.
I think he. Yes, I think it's somebody that moved out of the area. I think he drove a blue van, and I think that he obviously must have had another vehicle.
Our
Maybe
next door
something
neighbor
that.
has a blue van. I'm just saying. I mean, it's an old blue van.
Oh my god.
I don't think it's mid 80s.
No, I don't think so.
Old. But
No. But I think this guy had some like a police background, so I think he was either a police groupie of some type. I think that he might have used that as a ruse and like, like
so
a
you
fake
mean
police officer.
he's one of those people who drives around in a white Taurus
Uh-huh.
with a spotlight on it?
Mm-hmm. With the lights,
The worst type of people.
or they have the one on the dash or whatever.
Yeah, the spotlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people who drive really, really fast, get up right on your butt, and make you think that they're a cop.
Yeah. So I think that he's somebody like that. Um I mean, it has been so long. I think what, 30, 40 years? 20.
Well, I'm 35, so
Yeah.
less.
So,
I'm 33 years.
yeah. So I think it's been long enough that if this guy was in his 30s, he's probably
In his
pushing
60s.
60s right now. I
Yeah, I
think
think
he
that
could
eliminates our
still
next
be
door neighbor.
alive. I think he could still he's still alive. Um and I mean, I don't think he would just be able to stop. If these cases truly are linked and this is one person that we are looking at, I I find it hard to believe that a serial killer is just going to stop. He would move areas, which if it is one individual, I feel like the FBI would be able to link from state to state because they have VICAP now, which is the violent crime database that stretches across the United States. And they're supposed to, all states and counties are supposed to input information on violent crimes into this to see if they match an MO anywhere else. And it seems to be pretty standard for them to do this. So I feel like if he was still active, those cases would be linked by now. Because I don't think this kind of guy would stop anytime soon. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Unless it
Yeah.
was one of the
One of these guys.
one of these guys.
Um,
One of these guys.
yeah, one of these wise guys. So, I mean,
More importantly,
yeah.
I wonder how long my microphone was out and how awkward the second half of this is going to be.
Yeah, because you got. Well, hopefully, maybe my mic picked it up.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
Yeah, my
But
mic's
it's going
pretty
to sound
good.
like crap.
Yeah, so we'll replay it. We'll listen to it. Um, but yeah, so
So we apologize for that.
that is my belief of this case. That's everything I have on it, and we are coming up to the end of the show.
It's almost perfectly 2 1-hour episodes.
I know. So we are going to close this out with a stay safe, guys. Don't go out and get murdered. That's all I can say.
Oh god, we're so bad at this.
Hey, does Cookie Monster want to end the show?
No,
I think Cookie.
he kamikazed somewhere. I don't know where he went.
Oh my God! Where'd he go? Oh, he's right there.
No, I found him.
We did promise some of our patrons and whatnot that we would include Cookie Monster more often going forward. Once again, thank you Stacy Fergale and Chrissy Bryson for getting us this wonderful gift.
I just can't do it. M is for murder.
What did you just say?
M is for murder.
All right, guys. All right, guys. So M is for murder. We're going to sign off on this episode for today. We hope you guys enjoyed part 2 of the Colonial Parkway Killer. And hopefully, if you guys have any theories that you want to float our way about this case, hit us up on a YouTube comments, Facebook.
I think that's all we got because we're
Patreon, or by email. I believe
I'm sure
I
we
do
got
have
an
my
Instagram
email.
or something like that, right?
We
Twitter,
don't have Instagram yet. No Twitter yet.
Snapchat, Grindr.
If we have Grindr, I want to know what you're doing with that.
It's called social media marketing.
Babe,
Okay.
That's Are you marketing your ass?
Also, we totally forgot, because we're recording this on the same day as the last episode, to give another shout out to our patrons.
Yes. So do you want to?
That would be Chelsea.
Yep.
You know who you be. And Ralulk. Whoever you be.
I think we have an idea of who this is.
We'll never know. Anyway, shout out to you guys.
Yeah.
If you become a patron and we don't shout you out in the next episode, it's because we work ahead of schedule. And give us a couple of weeks. We'll get there.
Yeah. So if you feel like you want to support us, your favorite podcast, you guys can join us on Patreon. We now have a $1.
We only have a $1.
We only have a $1. You can pledge more if you are able to. We would appreciate anything that you guys can float our way to help support this podcast.
Because believe it or not, this is not free to do. We lose money currently producing this podcast.
I spend many, many, many hours doing the editing, typing up these episodes, and then John just wastes the hour to 2 hours that we spend filming.
Would downplay my role.
Oh.
Anyway, let's wrap this up before we drag on too long and annoy our people.
Yeah. All right, guys. Stay safe. Have a nice weekend, whatever day you are listening to this. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.